Hey guys, it's Naja with Tangled Roots Research, back with our third installment in our census series. We're almost done. We've got one more week to go. We've had so much awesome information and we had to split it up into 4 parts. So today, what we're going to be talking about is some of the unique questions that are asked on the different censuses. Because for whatever reason, I believe it's related to political climate and social climate at the time as to what information they felt was critical to collect from the populace. So we're going to be looking at them in a few categories. I've grouped them into 4 categories because there's so much information you can collect. One area is about home ownership. Most of the censuses do detail home ownership, but each one they ask it slightly differently. They often give you the value of the property owned, and they do at one point start to add rent, whether you're renting, and if you are renting, what is the amount of rent you're paying. So just to be able to make a comparison between rent currently and how much your ancestors may have paid can be an interesting thing to do. But one thing I find to be most poignant is to follow families that are descendants of slavery, especially through the 1870 and 1880 censuses after slavery has ended, and seeing them gain property when they were previously held as property. I think that's such a powerful thing to see and to be able to have documented. Another category is immigration. So immigration is recorded in a few different ways. It starts off initially as, are your parents of foreign birth? And then it evolves into the year of immigration is recorded in 1900. And even beyond that, what is your native language? Or on the census it says mother tongue. So you can kind of get a picture of where people traveled from. Having that year of immigration is really great. There's also their naturalization status, or if they're still considered an alien. So you can follow that through the years. The immigration information does, however, in 1940 move to being a supplementary question. So it's not asked of everyone on the page. It's simply asked of 2 people per page that the census enumerator was collecting. So it becomes a lot more limited there. But prior to that, you can get a pretty decent idea of where a family was from, where their parents are from. I will say I have found inconsistencies in this where I feel confident that I'm looking at the same person or same family, but they may change the state that they're born in, or they may change the states that their parents were born in. And I think that may be for various reasons. Possibly the enumerator just copied everyone as being from the same place, or maybe someone else was providing those details, as we mentioned last time, that it doesn't have to be the person that's in the household that's reporting the information. So the next category I wanted to talk with you about is marriage. This is a huge one, and I love the 1900 and 1910 censuses for this reason. But first, in 1880, we start to see the marital status of all of the inhabitants of the house. In addition to seeing their relationship to the head of household, we now get individual marriage statuses. So if there's a parent or a sibling that's living there with the head of household, we know if that person is maybe just visiting, if they're shown as married, or if they're widowed or divorced. We get an idea of that. But then as we move into 1900 and then into 1910, we also can see the number of years married, which can be really helpful, especially if you're wondering if you can't find a marriage record. This census record in 1910 and 1900 can give you an idea of when someone was in fact married. And then further down in 1930, we get just a brief glimpse. I really hate that this wasn't carried over, but we get the age at first marriage. So that can be even more telling, because knowing when someone was first married can tell you if their current marriage is their first or not, because you may not have a record of another marriage, but when you see that number there, it tells you, oh wait, I know they married their current spouse at the age of 25, but this says their first marriage was at 18. So it gives you another area to go and do a little more digging and find the additional details that you're looking for that you may not have realized were there. So if you're able to follow a family through 1900 all the way through 1930, you can collect a decent amount of marriage information, which I really, again, I hate that they didn't carry that on, because those columns can be really valuable when you're trying to follow a family. Next category that I want to discuss with you is on fertility. So fertility, you're like, wait, they don't ask those questions on the census. They kind of do. It can give you a bit of an image into what an infancy death and what may have been going on with a family at a particular time. So there is a column that asks, starting in 1900, that asks the mother how many children she has born and how many children are still living. So looking at the difference in these numbers can give you an idea of how many children they've lost. And a lot of those children are lost either because of stillbirth or early infant mortality. And you can also pair that with maternal death and see that there may be an indication that there were some challenges related to pregnancy. I've seen a number of families where I've questioned, okay, they got married 7 years ago, they haven't had their first child yet, but then they have a few. I'm wondering what happened. And when I run across this census, I see that they had a number of children. They were stillbirths, unfortunately. So when you pull these different pieces together with other documents that we're going to be talking about in the future, like death certificates and other things, then you can kind of get a more holistic view and picture of exactly what's going on with potentially the situation with these families when it comes to pregnancy and fertility. Another thing I want to point out is in 1940, we mentioned last week that other people can provide the information for the census if the family is not available. Well, it turns out in 1940, they put a little X beside the name of the person who is providing the information. So if you're looking through the physical record, that's what that little X means. That is the person who provided the information there. So that gives us an indication maybe of how credible we feel like that information is, because if it came from, you know, a child or a neighbor, we may not feel as confident about it as if it came from the head of household or their spouse. So these are just a few of the things that are really unique about the census. For whatever reasons, they don't continue these questions throughout. So when you're looking for details about immigration or marriage or children that a family has had, it's not going to be consistent, unfortunately. So your best shot, of course, is to find them in every census, which we know is not possible. We really wish it were. But if you can find them, these are some of the really awesome little Easter eggs that you can find in the different census records. So next week, we're going to wrap up our census series and be talking about some of the different census schedules that are a little bit different, and also the state censuses. So I'll see you guys next week. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Tangled Roots Research, and we'll see you later. Bye.